Part 7. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 61. There was total silence. In Dajiangqing City, everyone looked at each other. They remembered that this man, who was known as a loyalty, spent his whole life in poverty and swore to follow King Zilan to the death. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He has many deeds worthy of praise. In the army, a loyal general is a movable sign and a role model for soldiers. If it hadn't been for the Xuanhuan incident, many people would have joined the Kailan army, and some of them would have gone for the loyal general. Lu Yuan is a famous tough guy from Dajiang County. 3 months later, he will be executed. After hearing the news, Ruohua's words were choked in his throat and he could not speak out. Lu Yuan has already confessed, and I think Zhang Junjian is about the same. Ruohua, you have to be mentally prepared. What is that saying? White-haired people, send black-haired people to you, haha. Nangongke, laughing ridiculously. When people were silent, Nangongke's laughter was particularly harsh. Master Nangong, do you believe me if I tell you something? Zhang Zizai stood up, clenching his fists. Nangongke raised his head and looked at him with narrowed eyes. Zhang Zizai bit his lip and said word by word, one day, like Zhang Zhengzi, you will die in my hands, and your death will be even worse. Oh, I'm so scared. Let's wait until then, Nangongke sneered. Zhang Zizai looked at him seriously, he was really not joking. When Nangongke said to Ruohua, the white-haired man will send the black-haired man, he made this oath. Because he knew how much these words hurt his mother. Get out of here. Suddenly, Zhang Entropy roared at Nangongke in a low voice. He is also a white-haired person, and he gave it to a black-haired person. Are you sick? Nangongke didn't expect that he would lose his temper with himself. If it weren't for you, my son would never have died. Zhang Entropy looked at him coldly, and then he also looked at Zhang Zizai. Today, you stepped on my son's body, shining brightly. Be careful in the future, haha. After saying that, he, Zhang Entropy, was leaving first. Zhang Entropy, I sympathize with your pain of losing your son, but you need to understand one thing, you will not survive if you do it yourself. Zhang Zhengzi, no one can blame you. Life, death, and hatred cannot disappear in this world. But there are always some who commit evil, and some who just resist. Zhang Zizai, he wanted to live a carefree life, but he had to step into martial arts just to resist. But for those who commit evil, death is not a pity. Nangongke laughed loudly and left Zhu Chen. Zhang Yu remained silent and left with the dust in his hands. The remaining masters of the 3 palaces could only roll away in despair. The Dajiang County does not need a 5 meridians conference at all. It should be governed by Princess Ruohua again. Suddenly, someone shouted. For a time, countless people responded, which meant that power completely slipped away from the hands of the 4 houses. Yes, the princess is the one who cares about us. These days when she is gone, look at what a mess this Xuanhuan city is in. Yes, there are thefts everywhere. I used to go out on the streets casually at night, but now I don't dare to go out. Princess, take back the power. The whole world shouted. Zhang Entropy and the others had lost their credibility and reputation and did not dare to show up at this time. Ruohua also returned to her position smoothly. Now that Nangongke is gone, Zhang Entropy and the others are all disgraced and no longer have the ability to seize power. This great Xuanhuan city is finally at peace. Princess Ruohua faced the people, bowed, promised, and was grateful. Today, it was actually these 200,000 people who saved Zhang Zizai's family. Our family has encountered changes and was trampled by villains before. Thanks to everyone's help, Ruohua can finally come back here. I dare not say what I can bring to you. From now on, I can only do my best to create a peaceful and prosperous city for Dajiang City. I will not tolerate the treacherous and thieving people so that everyone can live and work in peace and contentment. Ruohua, I will definitely do my best. Everyone can see clearly, so what qualifications does Zhang Entropy have to compare with Princess Ruohua? Ruohua thanked him again and again. After a long time, people gradually dispersed. They were all very happy and could look forward to the future. However, everything is not over yet in Prince De Jiang's mansion. Old guys like Zhang Shanguan have such seniority, Ruohua can only ground them and teach them a lesson. When Zhang Shanguan saw Ruohua, he trembled and looked like he was about to die of old age. It was really difficult to handle such an old man even if he was even beaten or scolded. However, Zhang Zizai also scared him today. After all, he is an uncle. Speaking of which, I really can't hit him. Otherwise, it won't sound good if word gets out. In the yard, Ruohua and a group of young people are here. She held Zhang Yanning in one hand and Ruo Xiaoyu in the other, comforting the two little girls with distress. Xiaobao, we are able to get through the difficulties today only because of the help of the 9 Immortals girl. Whether she is still in the mansion, we have to thank her, Princess Ruohua said. She should be in my training room. Let's go together. Both image talismans were given to her by her, and Zhang Zizai's abilities were achieved through her. It can be said that today she is definitely a great benefactor to their family. Zhang Zizai walked quickly, and after a while he opened the door. There was no one inside, except for a small piece of paper, which read crookedly, "My dear, my sister is waiting for you at the Temple of Sacrifice." What is written, brother? Ruo Xiaoyu was about to grab it and read it. No, oh, yes, she went back to the temple, Zhang Zizai said. Ruo Xiaoyu's eyes flashed, and she said, Mom, I'm going to complain to you. When we opened the door that day, we saw my brother and sister-in-law hugging each other. Oh, Ruohua raised her eyebrows and looked at Zhang Zizai. Don't talk nonsense, she is just guiding me to practice. Zhang Zizai said with a headache. Ruohua didn't ask more, she knew the identity of Juxian, and now Juxian was gone, there was no way to thank him. Mom, I'm going to see the panda. After coming in just now, Lu Dingxing squatted in the yard and didn't speak. Let's go together. Ruohua said, and Zhang Yuning and Ruo Xiaoyu followed. Thinking of the problems in the future, the two sisters couldn't be happy. All the plans for today were prepared by Zhang Zizai when he came back last night, including letting Ruohua come out. The power of the two image talismans is indeed terrifying. Last night, the only worry was that Zhang Zizai could not beat Zhang Zhengzi. However, his performance can be said to be shocking even to his own people. Ruohua was even more shocked. The last time she saw Zhang Zizai, he was only at the 4th level of Wuming realm. In 2 months, he soared directly to the 8th level. If she hadn't had time now, she would have asked carefully what was going on. In this duel, Zhang Zizai could become famous in the Yanlong dynasty. But he didn't care. For him, these were all things of the past. Now he only cares about his brother, Lu Dingxing. He was still in the yard. When Zhang Zizai arrived, he stood up with red eyes and said in a deep voice, Boss, I've decided. Tomorrow, I will go to Yanlongxiu. I want to save my father. His father, the person he respected most, will be beheaded at Huangguomen in 3 months. Zhang Zizai knew without thinking that he would make such a decision. He thought about it himself. Yanlongxiu was originally his goal. Not only Lu Yuan, but also Zhang Zhenjian, he must go. Now, the great Zhongqing city has returned to peace. In fact, if Nangongke hadn't arrived, Zhang Zizai might have been in the sacrifice temple at this time. It's okay to go to Yanlongxiu, you all have to go to the sacrifice temple, but the little panda, Lu Yuan, is not someone you can save. Ruohua also stepped into the yard. She bit her red lips and her eyes were a little weak. Child, you got the heaven-level totem. Lu Yuan will be very happy if he knows. But he definitely doesn't want you to make trouble, because you are all too young, and the opponent is an existence you can't imagine. Your task is to grow up quickly, not to fight with your own strength at this time, which is really unrealistic. Lu Dingxing gritted his teeth and his eyes were red. But I can't watch my father die, I can't watch it. He grabbed Zhang Zizai's hand and held it tightly. Find a way. Ruohua took a deep breath. This not only involves Lu Yuan, but also her son. If Lu Yuan died, Zhang Junjian would not be far behind. But you have to be obedient. You have to discuss any decision with me first. You can't do anything reckless, especially you can't rob the execution ground. After all, with your strength, you can't even enter the outermost layer. After you go to Yanlongxiu, the place you have to go is the sacrifice temple. Ruohua was worried and kept reminding her. Mom, I know, I will never do anything reckless. I will watch him, Zhang Zizai said. He himself knew that relying on their strength, if they went to rescue people head-on, it would really be a joke and a death wish. Xiaobao Ruohua looked at him meaningfully. The sacrifice temple is a good place. Your father and your brother have studied in the sacrifice temple. The sacrifice temple especially likes those children with extraordinary talents. You have to use the power of the sacrifice temple well. That is the direction of your efforts. Do you understand? Ruohua is very smart. She and Zhang Zizai thought the same thing. In the Yanlong dynasty, if Zhang Zizai wanted to go against the royal family, only the sacrifice temple could possibly be his backer. How to make the sacrifice temple a backer? The only way is to be a genius. If that is not enough, then, unprecedented. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 62. Lu Yuan's matter is imminent. Even if he can't control it, Lu Dingxing can't stay in Dajiang Wangcheng. So Ruohua is also very clear that these young people will eventually go to Yanlongxiu to make a living. Dajiang Wangcheng, after all, is in a corner and lacks competition, while Yanlongxiu is the core of the dynasty, the highest stage, and the top young people of the entire Yanlong dynasty gather there. That's where the wind and clouds gather. The world's talents, whether they are ordinary but talented geniuses or princes, ministers, and children of the 9 clans, all choose to come to Yanlongxiu to find opportunities and make themselves stronger in the fierce collision. Even the teenagers of the Kailan royal family in Dajiang Wangcheng basically choose to go to the universities in Yanlongxiu for further studies after the age of 15. First, increase competition, second, embrace all rivers, and third, make good friends and build connections. Zhang Zizai once thought that he would stay in Dajiang Wangcheng for his whole life, but he didn't expect that he would go to the biggest stage of the dynasty so soon. Juxian had allowed him and Lu Dingxing to join the sacrifice temple directly, and they were exempted from the entrance examination. After all, they were the second and third place in the Kailan club. According to the rules, they still had to participate in the examination. After talking with him for a while, Lu Dingxing calmed down. He knew that direct confrontation was indeed the stupidest way. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. The only way to prove himself was that there might still be a chance. After all, he now has the same heaven-level totem as Zhang Junjian. Although Xiaoyu is only 13 years old, you should take her with you to the sacrifice temple this time. After discussing, Ruohua looked at Ruo Xiaoyu, who was a little confused in the corner, and suddenly said, "Me." Ruo Xiaoyu thought that Ruohua would think she was too young and would not let her go. Ruohua touched her head and said, "Child, your parents asked me to protect you until you were 15, but now things have changed. You should also see the world with your brothers and sisters." In fact, Ruo Xiaoyu wanted to go, and she also wanted to work hard and contribute her own strength to this family. Okay, Ruo Xiaoyu nodded continuously. Zhang Yuning held her slender hand and whispered, Xiaoyu is the first in the Kailan Club and can enter the sacrifice temple directly. In the future, the three of you can take care of each other in the sacrifice temple. I am still very relieved that Zizai is with them. Now, I am not Zizai's opponent. Zhang Yuning actually doesn't like to practice very much, and even less likes to fight. She is now in the first level of the Xuanmei realm, but she is definitely not as good as Zhang Zhengzi in a fight. Ruohua nodded. She can rest assured and let so many of them go to Yanlongxiu because of Zhang Zizai. During this period of time, she has already seen the ability and mind of her youngest son. There are many things that she doesn't need to say more. Mother, when are we going to leave? Zhang Yuning asked. Ruohua said, maybe we can't leave right away. I have something to give to Xiaoyu, which may take a few days. What is it? Ruo Xiaoyu was stunned. How could there be something for her? Your father and mother left you something. They were going to give it to you when you were 15, but you can afford it now. They. Thinking of them, Ruo Xiaoyu was a little confused. Ruohua never talked about her parents. Their generation didn't know anything about Ruo Xiaoyu's parents, and even Ruo Xiaoyu herself didn't have much impression. When asked, Ruohua just told her that she would tell her when the time came. Xiaoyu was also very sensible. Although she was eager, she didn't ask much. At this time, she heard that her parents actually left something for her. She was excited and her eyes were red. Zhang Yuning gently wiped away the tears from her eyes and said, it's a happy thing, Xiaoyu, don't be sad. Yeah, she nodded heavily and said, of course I'm not sad, I'm just looking forward to it. They waited in the front hall, and Ruohua entered her bedroom. About a quarter of an hour later, she came out with a snow-white jade box in her hand. The jade box had been treasured for many years and was covered with dust. This is the only thing your parents left for you. The reason why they didn't give it to you when you were 9 years old was because it was special and you couldn't bear it at that time. With your current state, it should be enough. Everyone was very curious, what exactly is this? Ruo Xiaoyu carefully took the jade box and put it on the table, staring at it carefully with her big blinking eyes, and protecting it with both hands, as if it were a newborn baby. Open it. Ruohua smiled. Ruo Xiaoyu couldn't wait, but her movements were still very gentle. But when the jade box was opened, a pink light shone, and a pink flower appeared in the jade box. The flower was pure and out of the world, with branches and leaves below. Unlike the pure flower, the branches and leaves below actually have sharp thorns, like poisonous needles. What is this? Ruo Xiaoyu was stunned. Its name is flower thorn. Flower thorn, Ruo Xiaoyu wanted to reach out and pick it up. Don't move. Ruohua held her little hand. Zhang Zizai looked at it carefully and asked suspiciously, Mom, this is the source of evolution, right? Although the breath is a bit strange, it is still similar to the previous troll. Yes, the third level source of evolution, flower thorn. Third level source of evolution. Zhang Zizai took a breath of cold air. My parents gave it to me. Ruo Xiaoyu's hands were shaking. She wanted to touch it, or even hold it in her arms, but for some reason, her fingers were shaking. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. She had never seen them before. She didn't even know what they looked like or what image they had. There would be a lot of imaginations in her mind. Ruohua and Zhang Yunting treated her as their own daughter, but after all, she knew that she still had real parents. So at this time, all the imaginations turned into a prepared third-level evolution source. When it was placed in front of her, she could no longer control her tears and flowed down. Zhang Yuning could only hug her to comfort her. Xiaoyu, don't cry. The third-level evolution source. It's a rare treasure. The panda was lucky enough to get a third-level evolution source and evolved to a heaven-level totem. You can do it too. Zhang Zizai was quite envious. The third-level evolution source was rare in the world. It was fine if the panda got one inexplicably, but Ruo Xiaoyu's biological parents left one for her. Of course, Zhang Zizai knew that this was normal. He was actually curious about who his mother's sister was. They had long gone, leaving behind a third-level evolution source as a gift for their daughter. Their level was not low, so it should not be difficult to find a third-level evolution source. Of course, in fact, a third-level evolution source is not so unusual. Perhaps many people may have it, but there is also a threshold for adaptation for the evolution source. It is quite difficult to find an adapted evolution source. This is also the reason why many people's totems are quite difficult to evolve. It is very likely that even if they get 10 evolution sources, there may not be one that suits them, unless they happen to find someone to exchange with. Ruo Xiaoyu's parents should have expected their daughter's totem. The third-level evolution source flower thorn is obviously suitable for Ruo Xiaoyu. Ruo Xiaoyu follows Ruohua's bloodline. Their evolution sources are all plant-based, which is very rare in the entire Yanlong dynasty. Ruohua's Emperor Peony totem is quite domineering, surpassing the heaven level, and it has also evolved slowly. After the initial excitement, Ruo Xiaoyu decided to accept the best gift her parents left for her and repay them by practicing hard from now on. Your parents love you very much. Don't bear grudges. One day, you will know how much they love you, Xiaoyu. Ruohua gritted her teeth and saw Xiaoyu crying, and her eyes also turned red. I know, I don't hate them. I'm very happy. I dreamed about them last night. Ruo Xiaoyu wiped away her tears and held up the third-level evolution source flower thorn. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 63. This evolution source can elevate Ruo Xiaoyu's talent to the top level of the entire Yanlong dynasty. The key is that she is only 13 years old, and her future is limitless. This is a gift that her parents have prepared for many years. It does take some time for the totem to evolve. It is hard to say. Some people take a long time, and some people take a short time. Ruohua came to help her. The two of them were in seclusion in the practice room. Zhang Zizai and they waited patiently outside. We went to the temple to learn about Yanlong ruins. We have 3 months to find a way. Zhang Zizai patted Lu Dingxing's shoulder. Boss, don't worry about me. I know the limit. Lu Dingxing was freed from his emotions. I want to become stronger and take the fate of myself and my family into my own hands. He gritted his teeth and said. Okay, let's go together on the road ahead. Zhang Zizai put his arm around his broad shoulders. This kid also grew up overnight. Young man, rush to the future and fight against fate. Yanlong Ruins is a challenge, but also an opportunity to break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. In 5 days, if Xiaoyu came out, her Xian level totem Pink Rose Totem not only evolved to the Tian level totem Flower Thorn Rose Totem, but also broke through 2 levels in the realm, directly rushing to the 6th level of Wuming realm. Trolls and flower thorns have brought them direct breakthroughs in realm. That's because the evolution of the totem brings about the transformation and evolution of the quality of the true qi, which can rapidly absorb the vast true qi and cause the transformation of the spiritual orifice. It is normal for the 3rd level evolution source to transform 1 level. If Xiaoyu directly transformed 2 levels, it means that she is already close to the 5th level of Wuming realm. After all, her realm is still low, and it is easier to break through 2 levels. 13 years old, the 6th level of Wuming realm, this is the top talent of the Yanlong dynasty. In the future, there will be a chance to get close to Zhang Junjian. Seeing her brothers and sisters, all of them were so amazing, Zhang Yuning smiled helplessly and said, "Mother, I've said since I was a child that I'm not a good cultivator." She really wasn't interested. She liked reading and studying all kinds of ancient books. That was her hobby. Just do what you like. Ruohua didn't force her. Ruo Xiaoyu was still trying out her new power. The totem characteristics of the flower thorns can directly condense the flower thorn true qi into flower vines. Under Ruohua's guidance, Ruo Xiaoyu controlled the flower thorn true qi and condensed several flower vines around her. The flower vines were covered with pink roses, but what was even more terrifying was the dense thorns on the flower vines. This was not a flower vine, but a mace. This is the flower thorn. If you whip it on the enemy, it can paralyze or even poison the opponent. If you can entangle the enemy, it will be difficult for the enemy to move. If you practice the battle tactics I gave you well, you will have no problem dealing with opponents with higher realms than you. Little Panda, when you reach the Xuanmei realm, the sacrifice temple will give you a better way to open the Xuanmei. Whether you fight for it yourself or the priest gives it directly, it depends on your luck at that time. The battle tactics of the sacrifice temple gather the essence of the world and are better than our Daejiang King City. I heard that Xiao Yushan gave you the test of the totem spiritual master. I will give you a soul cultivation method, the Kailan Dream Heart method. This is the best soul cultivation method in Daejiang King City. It cannot be passed on to others. Do you understand? Lu Dingxing took it with gratitude. Ruohua did not give it to Zhang Zizai because she knew that Zhang Zizai had a better one. Before leaving, Ruohua gave Zhang Zizai 2,000 third-grade spirit stones in addition to various instructions. The third-grade spirit stone is expensive, and only the totem warriors of the Xuanmei realm can afford it. The number of 2,000 is already quite large. It can support the three of them to practice for a long time, and they can also buy some things they like. It is a huge fortune. Ruohua will definitely not give more, so as not to bring them a fatal disaster. They decided to set off the day after Ruo Xiaoyu completed the totem evolution. Before setting off, Ruohua called Zhang Zizai to the study alone. Xiaobao. She stood in front of her, staring at Zhang Zizai, a little reluctant. After going to Yanlongxiu, you know what to do and what not to do, right? Ruohua still had worry in her eyes. I know. Be yourself. As for Lu Yuan, I will find a way. To be honest, this matter is very difficult, but I will try my best, Ruohua said seriously. She least hopes that Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing will overestimate their abilities. Zhang Zizai nodded. He smiled slightly and said, "You don't have to worry too much. If you worry too much, you will age quickly and not be beautiful." Ruohua smiled and shook her head helplessly. She looked out the window. "You said, did your father come back this time? Did he see us?" That day, Nangongke was waiting for him to show up. Zhang Zizai was stunned. He didn't know. Maybe he showed up, saw himself, and amazed the whole audience. Maybe he would be relieved. "Mom, time will give the answer," he said calmly. Ruohua smiled. She helped Zhang Zizai tidy up his clothes. Suddenly, she whispered in his ear, "One last thing." She said, "Be careful with the woman Juxian. She may be a good medicine or a poison." "Why?" Zhang Zizai was stunned. "Don't ask why. It's intuition," Ruohua glared. "Okay," Zhang Zizai smiled bitterly. "You are still young. Don't let the beauty of women blind your eyes." Zhang Zizai was just curious, is it true that every mother, when seeing her son and a girl being a little ambiguous, will intuitively feel hostility towards that girl? This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. If you want to be a totem talisman master, talisman paper, pen, ink, paper, and inkstone are all very expensive, and require a lot of money. You should use the spiritual stones given to you sparingly. If it is really not enough, Write to me again. I know, I know. Zhang Zizai has been with her for 15 years. This is the first time she went out, and she did talk a lot. The next morning, before dawn, when everything was quiet, the four young people were ready to set off. Zhang Yuning had been back and forth many times, and with her leading the way, there was no problem on the road. Outside the East City Gate, Zhang Zizai and the other four got on the black scale horses specially raised by the Kirin royal family. The four tall black horses, with black scales on their bodies, looked very similar to Kirin's. This black-scaled horse is already half a source beast. It has plenty of energy and endurance. It is no problem for it to carry Zhang Zizai to Yanlongxiu. Having a means of transportation is indeed much less labor-saving than walking. As it is still dark today, only Ruohua is here to see them off. Zhang Shang is hostile to you. I will send someone to secretly protect you on this road. He will not show up. When you arrive at Yanlongxiu, he will leave. Ruohua is still very thorough in doing things and will not let Zhang Shang find an opportunity. Even when they set off, no one else knew. Okay. Go, remember to write me a letter and report your safety. Parting is always painful. Outside the long pavilion, beside the ancient road, the grass is green. Especially mothers, sending their children to the future. Zhang Zizai galloped on the road for a long time. Every time he looked back, he could see Ruohua standing like a statue on the distant horizon, looking at them forever. If Zhang Zizai's figure had not completely disappeared, she would not leave. Maybe even if she disappears, she will stay there for a long, long time. If you are not a mother, you don't know how she feels when her children go out. A woman who controls the entire Daejiang County squatted at the foot of the wall of Daejiang King City, holding her chest, her eyes moist. The first volume Black Dragon Devouring the Sky ends. The second volume Flame Dragon Sacred Ruins starts tomorrow. The first volume is the initial story. The second volume is when Zhang Zizai comes to the biggest stage of the Flame Dragon dynasty and really explodes. There are many more important characters to appear, one of which is definitely beyond your imagination. The second volume will be more intense and refreshing. Let's take a look at the protagonist's pretentious road together. So, stay tuned. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 64. Yanlongxiu is located in the north of Daejiang Guangqing. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Zhang Zizai wanted to reach Yanlongxiu as quickly as possible. Despite this, he still had to stay in the cities along the way late at night. After all, the young Ruo Xiaoyu would not be able to bear the frequent travel. Except for Zhang Yuning, this was the first time for them to leave Daejiang Guangqing for a long time. Although they were reluctant, they had to go ahead. In the young man's heart, the future seemed to be full of difficulties, but he had already awakened in the abyss like a latent dragon. Looking at the distant north, Zhang Zizai remembered his role model when he was young, the brother who would never let people down. Brother, I'm here. Perhaps, he didn't know that he had become a totem warrior at the last moment. Perhaps, he was still thinking about his future. He never thought that Zhang Zizai's biggest purpose in going to Yanlongxiu was to save him. The journey to Yanlongxiu is much longer than that to Haihunyuan, but after all, there are black scale horses to travel, and the roads are straight, which is not the same as traveling in the high mountains and steep ridges of the Black Collar Mountains. The speed is at least 10 times different. But even so, it still takes about 10 days to get from Daejiang City to Yanlongxiu. During the day, the four people drove the black scale horses quickly. Zhang Zizai did not miss any time. While on the road, he spread out the acceleration talisman book left by Xiao Yushan on the horse's back and read it carefully. After seeing the power of the Sunfire talisman, he wanted to take this road even more. During the day, he studied the details of the totem patterns, the use of the spirit wood pen, and various details of carving totem talismans. These are all very complicated. Fortunately, Zhang Zizai has the soul realm of the heavenly spirit realm. He can figure out many problems quickly. He is really smart. On the first night, they had not yet left the Daejiang County and stayed in a city called Dayuan City. They also chose a relatively quiet inn, so that Zhang Zizai could concentrate on studying talismans. He also loves calligraphy and painting. Studying talismans is actually studying totems. He has a great interest in this aspect. In addition to practicing, studying totem patterns is even very beneficial to practice itself. In the inn, Zhang Yuning and others were practicing and cultivating. Zhang Zizai sat next to the desk and put away the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone in the new B package. Xiaoyushan is very good. The spiritual wood pen and inkstone he gave are all totem divine weapon level. It is said that they were made by people who worshipped the temple. The spiritual wood pen, talisman paper, talisman ink, and talisman inkstone were laid out in a row and arranged. During the day, he had memorized the totem pattern of the acceleration talisman for a long time. Along the way, he held the spirit wood pen in his hand and drew the totem pattern in the air. When drawing, how to use the true qi to inject it is also a science. In addition to the true qi, a lot of heaven and earth energy is needed, which requires spirit stones to provide, which is one of the sources of power of the talisman. To be a totem talisman master, you must first spend money. Just training requires a lot of spirit stones. Of course, once successful, the value will naturally double. Many talismans are basically not available on the market. The price of this simplest acceleration talisman is almost the same as that of the flying eagle sword. Zhang Zizai, holding the spirit wood pen in his hand, is fully focused. On the table, there is a blank talisman paper. Next to the talisman paper, there are some spirit stones. He closed his eyes, imagined, and felt the totem pattern of the acceleration talisman. The totem pattern of this acceleration talisman was obviously taken from the totem pattern of source beasts like the phantom wolf. Zhang Zizai had killed the terrifying phantom wolf before, and he had a good memory. He roughly remembered that the totem patterns of the two were somewhat similar. With his eyes closed, his fingers began to move. His left hand had been grinding the talisman ink on the talisman inkstone for a while. Now the ink had come out, and his spirit wood pen was lightly stained with some ink and fixed on the talisman paper. Then, he wrote decisively. The dragon flew and the phoenix danced, and it was done in one go, and the writing was like a god. The last stroke was successfully drawn, and Zhang Zizai decisively picked up the pen. He had already poured his true energy into the handwriting. At the moment of finishing the pen, the talisman seemed to come alive, like a mouth, madly swallowing the heaven and earth vitality in the third-grade spirit stone next to it until it was completely swallowed. The spirit stone was dug out from the depths of the earth. It was nourished by the earth vein vitality all year round, so it could be full of spiritual charm. Zhang Zizai held the spirit wood pen, staring blankly at the talisman in front of him, which was gradually dimming, but the totem pattern had amazing spirit. I succeeded on my first try. He was shocked by his own genius. In fact, the process is very complicated, including writing, controlling the true qi, and the accuracy of the totem pattern. The whole process requires ultra-high precision control. The handwriting cannot have any mistakes. Without a super-controlling soul, there is no chance of success. Zhang Zizai knew it was difficult, but he tried it for the first time and found that he really had no problem. He held the first acceleration talisman with shining eyes. I consumed a third-grade spirit stone, but I can sell at least 20 third-grade spirit stones. In the future, I will be rich. No wonder totem talisman masters make so much money. The only difficulty is that at this moment, he felt that drawing a talisman paper was so tiring, not only consuming a lot of true energy, but also a lot of spirit. This is also the reason why many totem talisman masters can't produce crazily. He estimated that it was already difficult for him to draw an acceleration talisman a day. Moreover, he was not sure whether this acceleration talisman was successful. Next door was Ruo Xiaoyu's room. Zhang Zizai knocked on the door and asked, "Xiaoyu, are you practicing?" "No, come in." Zhang Zizai pushed the door in. She was sitting on the window sill, watching people coming and going below. "Take my talisman." Zhang Zizai directly put the acceleration talisman on her head. "What are you doing?" Ruo Xiaoyu was just startled, and the talisman paper had already burned, but the totem pattern gathered into her flower thorn rose totem. "Move, is it accelerated?" "Ah," Ruo Xiaoyu waved her hand and almost hit her face. "So fast, brother, where did you get the talisman? Why waste it on me?" Ruo Xiaoyu widened her eyes, looking at a prodigal. "I drew it, haha. It succeeded on the first try." What would Xiao Yushan's expression be if he knew? He left himself 100 talisman papers, thinking that for a novice, training with 100 talisman papers might not be successful. "I don't believe it." When Zhang Zizai was happy, Ruo Xiaoyu pouted. "You actually look down on me. I'm tired today. I'll draw another one tomorrow. Then I'll give you a good slap on your fat face." Ruo Xiaoyu was anxious and said angrily, "I'm not fat, you're a pig." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 65. The next night, Zhang Zizai turned a blank talisman paper into a speed-up talisman right in front of them. Zhang Yuning and the other three were so shocked that their jaws dropped to the ground. "Pervert." The three looked at Zhang Zizai as if he were looking at a ghost. They all knew how difficult it was to be a totem talisman master. "I'm a heavenly totem, why haven't I understood the Kailan Dreaming Heart method yet?" Lu Dingxing felt that something was wrong. How come he was a heavenly totem, but compared to Zhang Zizai, he was still like a fool? "You're a blacksmith, you don't need too much talent, just enough strength," Zhang Zizai said. "No, I also want to complete the novice package." Lu Dingxing worked very hard, without stopping for a moment. Zhang Yuning leaned against the door, gently lifted her long hair, and looked at Zhang Zizai with soft eyes. She was in Yanlongxiu, and she knew the shortage of totem talisman masters even more. She finally understood what her mother meant when she said that she would use her brother's extraordinary talent to impress the sacrifice temple. If a totem warrior with extraordinary talent cannot impress them, then add a totem talisman master with superb talent. If that is not enough, there are two young boys and girls with heavenly totems, Lu Dingxing and Ruo Xiaoyu. If it weren't for the incident at the Desolate Heaven Pass, the three of them would have definitely turned the world upside down in the sacrifice temple. Of course, if that incident hadn't happened, my brother wouldn't have grown up. It's hard to say whether it's a blessing or a curse. They continued on their journey and continued to work hard. After 3 days of walking, they left the Dejiang County and arrived at the Qingluan County, the territory of the Qingluan clan, one of the 9 major clans. Qingluan County had a good relationship with the Dejiang County, but after the Desolate Heaven Pass incident, there was no contact. Passing by Qingluan County, they did not go to Qingluan City, but bypassed this city that was comparable to the Dejiang King City. Watching the Qingluan City gradually disappearing from behind, Zhang Yuning said lightly, "There is something you may not know." The three of them pricked up their ears. "The Qingluan clan has an 18-year-old girl named Dongyang Jing. She is my senior sister in the Huguo mansion and is much more talented than me. Is there anything strange about her?" Zhang Zizai asked. He had never heard of this person. Zhang Yuning shook his head helplessly and said, "If it weren't for the matter of Huangtian Pass, she might have been our sister-in-law within a year. It turned out that she was the one Zhang Junjian liked. To be precise, they were in love." According to Zhang Yuning, although they didn't tell their elders, the two had already decided to spend their lives together. It seems that Zhang Yunting also said that when he came back from Huangtian Pass next time, he would take Zhang Junjian to Qingluan City to propose marriage. However, things are unpredictable. Then is she still in Yanlongxiu? Zhang Zizai asked. She is here. After the accident, we were often together. She was also thinking of ways to save my brother. I will take you to meet her later. Okay. It sounds like she should be a good woman, and she must be a very remarkable person, otherwise Zhang Junjian would not like her. Dongyang Zheng. Zhang Zizai remembered this name. Passing through Qingluan County, and then crossing several other counties, they finally approached their destination this time, the core of the dynasty, Yanlong Ruins. Along the way, Zhang Zizai continued to turn the acceleration talisman, striving for perfection. After 10 days, he already had 10 acceleration talismans in his hand. Not every time it can succeed. So far, Zhang Zizai has wasted 4 talisman papers, and the probability of success has reached more than 2/3. He didn't know that for a beginner, this was already a very terrifying data. On the morning of the 11th day, when the fiery morning light enveloped the world, Zhang Zizai faced the red sun and saw the end of the horizon. Legend has it that Yanlongxiu is a city that is 10 times larger than Dajiang Guangqinj. This is the ancestral land of the Yanlong royal family, where the sacrifice temple is located, and the birthplace of the totem warrior. The cities of the Yanlong dynasty are based on the origin pillar. A city without an origin pillar is not a city at all. There are a total of 99 origin pillars in the entire Yanlong dynasty. For example, Dajiang Guangqinj has only 1 origin pillar. But Yanlongxiu has a total of 10 origin pillars. Among them, the origin pillar of Dajiang Guangqinj ranks 3rd in the entire dynasty. The first and second are in Yanlongxiu. The second is in the Yanlong Palace, which is exclusive to the Yanlong royal family. The basic awakening is the dragon totem, also known as the Yanlong God Pillar. The first is naturally in the sacrifice temple, which is said to be the birthplace of the totem warrior, and its history is much older than that of the Yanlong royal family. Zhang Zizai sat on the horse and saw the golden city. The early morning sun shone on the golden city, making the city shine with magnificent light. Solemn, serious, and domineering, it is worthy of being the place that rules the world. Yanlongxiu. The light was too dazzling. Zhang Zizai squinted his eyes and looked at the vast city. This serious place can bring momentum suppression to anyone. It represents the royal family, power, and coercion. For Zhang Zizai, it is also full of challenges. A city that people dare not open their eyes to see. All those who came from afar can only lower their heads and walk into this ancient behemoth. We are here. Don't look around when you enter the city, otherwise the guards will pay attention to you. The guards of Yanlongxiu are the sharpest weapons of the Yanlong royal family and the core army of the dynasty. Although there are not as many as the Kailan army, they are basically elites and there are countless strong ones. Following Zhang Yanning, Zhang Zizai followed the crowd and entered the city gate of Yanlong Ruins. Those imperial guards were wearing armors engraved with fiery red divine dragons. They had firm eyes and cold expressions. They basically held sharp totem weapons in their hands. Ordinary people could not help but tremble under their eyes. Zhang Zizai discovered that the proportion of totem martial artists in the surrounding area was indeed much higher than that in the great Zhongqing city, especially young people. It seemed that many people wanted to come here to make a living. Walking inside, I did find that Yanlong Market was much more prosperous and lively than Dajiangqing City. Many of the treasures of totem warriors were sold directly in the shops along the street, and the prices were expensive. Spiritual stones, elixirs, spiritual mines, totem weapons, etc. are all for sale. Those who can do business in Yanlong Ruins have some background and some strength themselves. Now that they have come in, and no one can recognize them, Zhang Yanning can safely show them around. She was wearing a cloak, otherwise with her beauty, she would not be able to walk at all, and she would be surrounded by people. After all, the title of the most beautiful woman in Daejeon County is quite resounding. She has been in Yanlong ruins for 2 years, and many people here know her. Sister, take us directly to the Temple of Sacrifice. After wandering around for a while, Zhang Zizai wasn't too interested. Although this place was prosperous, lively, and full of opportunities, it was not his home after all. In fact, he only rejects this place. Looking up, this huge city looks like a prison. Too bad. Yanlong Dynasty, the cruelest city. Brother, we should be very close to you. He knew that direction was the direction of the palace, and that direction was the direction of the Great Era prison. The Protector's mansion is relatively close to the Sacrifice Temple. I will come to see you often on weekdays, Zhang Yanning said, leading the way. The streets of Yanlong Market were bustling with people coming and going, and there were lively discussions. A few days ago, Nangongke came back from Daejeon King City in despair. It is said that he was punished by His Majesty. You deserve it, retribution. Your Majesty trusted him so much and asked him to investigate, but it turned out that this guy avenged his personal revenge and even asked King Zilan's youngest son to punish him, a 15-year-old child, haha. Zhang Junjian's younger brother, his name is Zhang Zizai. It is said that he only awakened to the totem when he was 15 years old, but it was quite terrifying. The totem was a black dragon. I heard that in less than half a year, I started from scratch and became a late bloomer. I broke through to the 8th level of Wuming realm and killed a fellow Xianvein realm on the spot. It sounds very interesting. King Zilan should have had a pair of genius sons, but it's a pity that he betrayed the country and fled, which also affected his children. Lu Yuan's matter has been decided. After a while, the Huangguo sect will be executed, and Zhang Junjian will also be doomed. Without Zhang Zizai, the only seedling, the entire Kailan royal family will have no hope. To be honest, the Kailan royal family is already at the end of its tether. It has long been outclassed by the 9 major clans and reduced to the 3rd rate. If Zhang Yunting hadn't suddenly appeared and cultivated Zhang Junjian, with hope of revival, the clan would have been destroyed in the future. Now, let's see if Zhang Zizai can bring the Kailan royal family back to its weird glorious moment. I think it's absolutely impossible. The decline of a royal family cannot be achieved by one person. Do you know what is more important? What? His totem is not Kailan. Zhang Zizai didn't expect to hear so many people discussing him here. Even, he is concerned about his future. The people who were discussing it never expected that Zhang Zizai was standing next to them. We're almost there. Turn to the Holy Dragon Avenue ahead and walk to the end. Zhang Yanning led the way, leading a group of younger brothers and sisters. Don't come close, Shenglong Avenue is closed. When they approached there, a middle-aged man from the shop next to them quickly scolded them. Why is the road closed again? Zhang Yanning was a little depressed. The middle-aged man whispered, Princess Shenxiao is passing by, please don't get close. Her, Zhang Yanning pursed her lips and said to Zhang Zizai, I have no choice. I'll take you on a detour. Zhang Zizai heard a familiar name. Princess Shenxiao. Is she Xiao Zhao? Zhang Zizai said. Of course he knew this person. Don't call her by her name, today is different from the past, Zhang Yanning said seriously. Princess Shenxiao, Longzhao. The name is very domineering, like the sun and the moon. Zhang Zizai didn't know that she was so powerful now. After all, they were the same age and often played together when they were children. In my memory, there is a girl who follows me and calls me Brother Zizi. At that time, Emperor Yanlong often went to Daejeon City. He liked his youngest daughter, the 9th princess, the most and only took her with him every time. At that time, Yanlong Huang and Zhang Yunting had a very good relationship. They drank and chatted together without any restraint. Zhang Zizai also had an impression of him. Although, it's a little blurry. However, the memory is very short. It seems that after the age of 6, the time to meet each other stopped. It is estimated that Princess Shenxiao does not have much memory of herself. Especially after the age of 9, the princes and princesses all soared to great heights, but Zhang Zizai fell into decline for 6 years. It would be strange for her to still remember herself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 66. The girls who played together back then seemed to have taken completely different paths as time went by. The trajectories of life have long ceased to intersect. If Zhang Zizai doesn't get the Black Dragon Totem and spends his whole life in the Great Zhang City, he will only be able to hear about the deeds of this Princess Shenxiao in legends. He vaguely remembered that Emperor Yanlong had given birth to 8 sons in succession, so he was especially fond of the 9th princess. Moreover, she had no other sisters for so many years, so she was naturally the apple of his eye. Princess Shenxiao passed by and the Shenglong Avenue was closed. Otherwise, what would it be like if a group of people were blocking the road? Zhang Yanning was originally going to take Zhang Zizai and the others to take a long way to the Temple of Sacrifice, but after listening to the voice, she said, she should go back to the Holy Dragon Palace, which is in the opposite direction of the Temple of Sacrifice. When she passes here, the section of road she walked will be lifted, and it will be closer to us to go to the temple. It seems like they are about to pass us. Lu Dingxing raised his head and looked towards the Holy Dragon Avenue. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow circled M. In fact, besides them, there were still some people who secretly looked over there, wanting to admire Princess Shengxiao's grace. However, some old residents of Yanlong ruins were not surprised. They knew that keeping their eyes straight at this time was actually the best choice. Zhang Zizai and the others were waiting here with nothing to do. He leaned against the wall with his arms behind his head. The sound of horse hooves came from Shenglong Avenue. It was obvious that Princess Shengxiao's team was about to approach. He briefly thought about the appearance of Xiao Zhao in his mind, but unfortunately he forgot a little. After all, they were both under 6 years old at the time. The appearance of a 4 or 5-year-old girl must be very different from what it is today 10 years later. Soon, he saw the Imperial Guards wearing golden armor clearing the way in front. They held weapons in their hands and their eyes were cold and expressionless. He asked them to take a look. It turned out that they were still looking around at the Holy Dragon Avenue. People, the totem warriors from all over the Yanlong dynasty, quickly looked away, not daring to look further. Zhang Zizai and the others were in the corner, but not many guards noticed them. After dozens of golden armored Imperial Guards passed by, Zhang Zizai finally saw Princess Shenxiao. The first thing that catches the eye is a pure white horse, like white jade, pure and flawless, tall and mighty. There are strange golden lines on its body and legs. They are totem lines, which also prove that this white horse is a kind of origin beast. This is the golden dragon horse raised and tamed by the Yanlong royal family. It belongs exclusively to the royal family and symbolizes status. Anyone who rides it or touches it will be beheaded. Sitting on this golden dragon horse, the noble and elegant girl with charming curves, stern eyes, is the princess of Shenxiao, Longzhao. The most eye-catching thing is the curve of the waist on the horse's back and the long hair like a waterfall, which slightly shines with a light golden light in the sun. Her face was covered with a veil, so her face couldn't be seen clearly, but from the curves of her figure, it could be seen that 10 years later she had become very attractive. Zhang Zizai did not meet her eyes, but even from the side profile, he could feel the pride and nobility she came from the royal family. Those eyes could definitely penetrate the hearts of all people. She is very beautiful, Zhang Yanning whispered in his ear. For someone with her appearance to be called beautiful, that must be pretty good indeed. After all, Princess Shengxiao's mother was also a famous beauty in the dynasty. She is beautiful, but she is too solemn, too domineering, and difficult to get close to. Maybe this is the imperial aura of a child of the royal family. That kind of beauty can only make people keep a distance. Zhang Zizai discovered that although the person in front of him had played together 10 years ago, when they met again, he was no different from a stranger. The only thing is that maybe the totem on her body is the dragon totem, the same as Zhang Zizai, so it feels like tit for tat. Zhang Zizai can vaguely feel a kind of confrontation in momentum. When I was a child, I listened to my father and His Majesty talking. They watched you play and said that when you grow up, they want you to get married, Zhang Yanning suddenly said. Is there still such a thing? Zhang Zizai was stunned. Your Majesty said it? Dad just smiled and didn't say much. Later, it seems that you didn't get the totem when you were 9 years old, so it would be even less likely to mention this matter. Of course, two elders who have a good relationship always think about it. Let the children be together. In the past few years, he has been asking me which prince I like. Zhang Yanning said these words with some emotion. Haha, who knew it would be so quick to turn against someone? Yes. Really cruel. Zhang Yanning watched Princess Shenxiao pass by with complicated eyes. Zhang Zizai noticed that there was another woman, also riding a golden dragon horse, following Princess Shenxiao. The woman was also veiled, so her appearance could not be clearly seen, but her figure was also very good, no worse than Princess Shenxiao, just a little weaker, and she should be younger. Who is this again? In Zhang Zizai's memory, there was no such person. Princess Lingxian. She is also very beautiful, but she is a bit introverted and strange. Princess? Isn't there only one ninth princess? Zhang Zizai shifted his gaze to her. There was a strange feeling on this woman's body. Indescribable. Zhang Yanning said, Princess Lingxian is the daughter of your Majesty's younger brother. However, your Majesty's younger brother left long ago, so Princess Lingxian grew up in the imperial city and was raised by a concubine. In the past 2 years, your Majesty granted her an unusual title. She is Princess Lingxian. Of course, although she has the title of princess, her status is slightly inferior to that of the real Princess Shenxiao, but she is still considered a member of the royal family. She is 1 year younger than Princess Shenxiao and is now 14. Age. I see. This Princess Lingxian is also studying in the Holy Dragon Palace. For some reason, Princess Lingxian seemed to be more dangerous to him than Princess Shenxiao. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that even the black dragon totem was a little restless. Right at this moment, Princess Lingxian, as if she could feel his gaze, turned her head and glanced at Zhang Zizai. Dark red eyes. Zhang Zizai saw her eyes, which turned out to be blood red. She should be a very beautiful girl, but the color of her eyes added some weirdness and murderous intent. She didn't see Zhang Zizai and quickly turned around, but it was hard for Zhang Zizai to forget those dark red eyes. Seeing them walking away, Zhang Yanning said, Don't look at the color of Princess Lingxuan's eyes. In fact, she is extremely kind. She never hurts others, works hard, and is never domineering. She has a very quiet personality. In Yanlongsu, the reputation is much better than the other one. The other person she was talking about was obviously Princess Shenxiao and Longzhao. Quiet and kind, Zhang Zizai was a little surprised, because those eyes just now were vaguely bloody, and one look could make people feel cold all over. Princess Shenxiao looks much cleaner and brighter. Zhang Yanning smiled slightly and said, I know, you just saw her eyes. It feels really bad to look into her eyes. In fact, this has something to do with her special totem. What totem? Speaking of which, she is similar to you. She was born into the royal family, but she is not a flame dragon totem? She is a different kind, just like your black dragon. It is said that her current totem is an Earth level 1, called the Red Blood Spiritual Dragon Totem. Red Blood Spirit Dragon Totem. You mean, the totem is a bloody dragon? For such a young girl, her totem is actually a blood dragon. The bloody color, the disaster of blood and light, does not sound so auspicious. Of course, Zhang Zizai's black dragon is not much better. Princess Shenxiao and Princess Lingxian, I didn't expect to see these two princesses today, and Zhang Zizai had already seen them. Zhang Yanning became a little more serious and whispered, in Yanlong ruins, don't call the princesses and princes by their names in public. For example, Longzhao and Longyan are not allowed. Zhang Zizai and the others nodded. After all, they would cause unnecessary trouble. Longyan, is that the name of Princess Lingxian? Zhang Zizai asked. Zhang Yanning nodded. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 67. After the two princesses walked over, the Holy Dragon Avenue was unsealed. The Sacrifice Temple and the Holy Dragon Palace, one at the head and the other at the tail of the Holy Dragon Avenue, stood opposite each other, giving a feeling of tit for tat. The Sacrifice Temple is the oldest, while the Holy Dragon Palace was built by the Yanlong royal family, so it is naturally the newest. It is also a confrontation between the new and old forces of the Yanlong dynasty. This wide Holy Dragon Avenue made Zhang Zizai feel the atmosphere of conflict between the two. It is said that the competition between schools is now quite fierce. The Holy Dragon Palace has the princes and princesses sitting in it, and it is unprecedentedly powerful. The Sacrifice Temple, which did not teach at all before, felt a huge pressure and began to accept disciples of the Sacrifice Temple. Zhang Yuning said that the authority of the Sacrifice Temple is not as strong as before, which is why Ruohua believes that they will be particularly interested in geniuses. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The Sacrifice Temple leads the people to worship the gods, so it is a holy place in the hearts of the people of the dynasty. Zhang Zizai still remembers the exquisite figure of Princess Shenxiao, and he has arrived at the Sacrifice Temple. He thought it would be a magnificent building in his imagination, but he didn't expect that from the outside, it was just a simple and ancient temple. Judging from the mottled marks on the wall, the history of the Sacrifice Temple is indeed ancient and long, much older than the history of the Yanlong dynasty. Of course, the area of the Sacrifice Temple is still very vast. Those ancient temples cannot be seen at a glance. In the depths of the clouds in the distance, Zhang Zizai has seen a huge origin pillar, shrouded in clouds and mist, and it is not clear how high it is. This is the largest origin pillar of the dynasty. Indeed, it is ancient and eternal, like a pillar of heaven, descending from the sky and standing here. From then on, the ancient gods bestowed totems, and totem warriors were born. Only ordinary people were qualified to fight against source beasts and build homes in this desolate world. How could people not worship the ancient gods? Zhang Zizai felt the strong power of faith when he stood here. My father and my brother have studied here. They were all disciples of the temple. Now, I am here too. He looked at the long group of temples, which seemed like a paradise. It was in the busiest city, but it felt spotless. The majestic and solemn atmosphere inside made people respectful. For the people, this is a holy place, so those who approached did not dare to make noise. When he came here, the figures of Princess Shenxiao and Princess Lingxian disappeared from his mind. Zhang Zizai knew that a new journey had arrived. Take out the entry token, Zhang Yuning instructed. They were about to go in. The entry token is given to the top 3 of the Kailan Club. Xiaoyu's is slightly different, it is white, while Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing's are black. The black token is required to participate in the entry test. Of course, because of Juxian, Zhang Zizai should be exempted from the entry test for the two of them. I am a disciple of the Huguo mansion. Without a token, I can't get close to the sacrifice temple and can't send you in. What to do next? You go by yourself. Juxian should be waiting for you inside. She has helped our family so much, I am still very confident in her. Since we are here, there will be many opportunities to meet in the future. Zhang Zizai said, no problem, you go back first. If there is anything or you need to meet, write to me. I will also go to the Huguo mansion to find you when I settle down. Okay, Xiaobao. Zhang Yuning was still a little reluctant. Sister, come to play with us often. When they officially enter the sacrifice temple and have a system, it will be much more convenient for Zhang Yuning to visit. Zhang Yuning nodded, smiled, and watched them go forward. Someone nearby recognized her. Isn't that the daughter of King Zilan? Zhang Yuning, yes, she is indeed the most beautiful woman in Dajian County, so beautiful. Have you heard about the matter of General Zhengzi? She was arrested and investigated by General Zhengzi some time ago. Of course I heard about it, Lord Nangong, it's embarrassing to the whole world, haha. In fact, with their identities, as long as someone recognizes them, there will definitely be all kinds of discussions. Zhang Yuning waited for them to enter the entrance hall outside the sacrifice temple, and still stood for a long time before leaving here. She knew that when Zhang Zizai stepped into the gate of the sacrifice temple, life was different again. She didn't know that Zhang Yuning and the other three actually encountered difficulties in this entrance hall. They knocked on the door and entered this ancient hall, and found that it was very empty, with only a table and a chair in the middle. When they came in, a middle-aged man in black was practicing with his eyes closed. He had long hair, a goatee, a thin mouth, and narrow eyes. His overall appearance gave people the impression that he was not easy to mess with. Zhang Zizai knocked on the door and said, "Senior, we are here to get in." The sacrifice temple has assessment rules for all major clans, and there are also various types of selections among the people. For example, the top 3 of the Kailan Club in the King Zhang Palace have different selection times, so new disciples join all year round, not just once a year. This requires an entry hall to check and screen here. After Zhang Zizai made a sound, the middle-aged man in black slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were a little cold and oppressive, and he was a strong man at first glance. Zhang Zizai currently has a good impression of the sacrifice temple, so he was a little uncomfortable when he suddenly encountered this cold look. Put the token up. Seeing that it was 3 young people, the middle-aged man didn't pay much attention. After all, he had been on duty recently. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Zhang Zizai and the others stepped forward and placed 3 tokens, 1 white and 2 black, on the table amid the middle-aged man's cold aura. The Kailan royal family. After getting the token, the middle-aged man in black focused his gaze, then glanced at the 3 people, and finally landed on Zhang Zizai. Are you Zhang Yunting's youngest son? Zhang Zizai nodded. He was not sure whether the middle-aged man was hostile or kind. Anyway, his eyes were a bit cold. Of course, he just asked without worrying too much. After checking the 3 tokens, he looked through the records again and murmured, the first in the Kailan Club is Ruo Xiaoyu, and the second is Lu Dingxing. The third one is Zhang Zizai. They have included records from all over the place, so they cannot be fooled casually. He clipped the record book, pointed at Ruo Xiaoyu, and said, "You can go in, someone will make arrangements. The other 2 will have a unified assessment in a month. Only if they pass by then can they enter the sacrificial temple." Qualifications. Zhang Zizai was startled. He is not afraid of the assessment, but it takes a month, which seems a bit long. "Senior, can you take the assessment now?" he asked. The middle-aged man said calmly, "There are rules for everything. The sacrifice temple has an assessment once a month. There was already an assessment 3 days ago. It is impossible to hold one just for you. There were about 30 people in each assessment, and in the end there were only 10. One can enter. 30, enter 3. He was completely businesslike. Zhang Zizai had a headache. There is absolutely no problem with the assessment, but the key is to wait for a month. If it were before, he would stay in an inn and be able to wait. But now, Lu Dingxing's father will die in less than 3 months, and they need a stage and a stable cultivation environment. 1 month is too long. If Xiaoyu had not accepted the source of evolution, they would have arrived 3 days ago, but this matter was unpredictable. So Zhang Zizai said quickly, "Senior, a few days ago, 2 seniors, Juxian and Xiaoyushan, went to Dajiangqing City and met us. They said that we would be allowed to enter directly without participating in the assessment. Senior, can you be accommodating?" Unexpectedly, the black-haired middle-aged man sneered and said, "Stop it, the son of the majestic King Zilan is even afraid of the assessment. Do you want to go through the back door?" He shook his head and said, "Sacrifices to the temple are always business affairs. No matter what your identity is, you must obey the rules here. I only recognize the token. If you brought a black card, then you will be treated as a black card. Come back for a unified assessment in 1 month." From the tone of his voice, it seemed like it was completely non-negotiable. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 68. Zhang Zizai really didn't expect that there would be such an old-fashioned person in this sacrificial temple. He didn't know much about the situation of offering sacrifices to the temple. The identity of the person in front of him was unknown, and it was hard for Zhang Zizai to offend him. After all, he does have his reasons. When he works here, he only recognizes black and white cards. If the son of King Zilan doesn't even dare to take part in the assessment, and still keeps messing around here, it would be a joke. He couldn't say much. So, he could only nod. If you have the ability, just wait for a month. As long as you can pass the assessment, the door of the temple will always be open to you, the middle-aged man in black said calmly. The more entangled he is at this time, I'm afraid he will think that he is even afraid of the entrance examination. Then I'll come back. Then Ruo Xiaoyu didn't want to go in first. They did not expect this situation, so they could only plan to go out and find a nearby inn and stay for a month. However, just as they were about to leave, another group of people came in from outside the door, basically all teenagers and girls. Zhang Zizai immediately realized that those people should be disciples of the Temple of Sacrifice. So strong. The first time he saw the official disciples of the Temple of Sacrifice, he already frowned. These teenagers are similar in age to him, but most of them should be in the Xuanmei realm. Zhang Zhengzi, who is 16 years old, has reached the mysterious Vein realm. He is already regarded as a top genius in Xuanhuan city. Before Zhang Zizai and the others, Zhang Zhengzi was already the most famous genius boy besides Zhang Zhengjian. As for these young men, it can be said that none of them are worse than him. There are even beings who are younger than him but have a higher realm. The Black World Clan. Zhang Zizai quickly guessed their identities. These young people have a different aura from ordinary totem warriors. They are generally cold and stern, and their temperament is somewhat similar to the iron-toothed ant queen that Zhang Zizai fought with in the Black Collar Mountains. Although the totems were not manifested, Zhang Zizai still guessed that their totems should all be of the insect type. There are many types of natal totems, including birds and insects, sea fish and beasts, swords, guns, swords and halberds, various plants, and many special types. The Black World Clan is one of the 9 major clans, and the clan with the most powerful insect totems in the entire Yanlong dynasty. The Black World Clan is a gathering of many small clans, with many more divided veins than the 5 Kylin meridians. Seeing these cold and solemn young people, Zhang Zizai felt a little emotional. He whispered to Lu Dingxing, "I often hear people say that our Kylin royal family has been in decline for many years. Except for father and brother, as a whole, the 9 major clans have long been surpassed. I still don't believe it. Today I see these young people from the Black World clan. Man, I believe it. It can be said that none of these people are less talented than Zhang Zhengzi, and some even surpass him by a lot. In the Kirin royal family, apart from their family, there is only one Zhang Zhengzi, and now he is dead. Fortunately, Lu Dingxing, Ruo Xiaoyu, and now Zhang Zizai have huge space in the future. In the future, they may be able to truly revive the Kylin royal family. It is indeed not easy to revive a royal family that has been reduced to the third rate. Zhang Yunding cannot do it alone. He needs his descendants to become stronger than ever before. A person will always grow old, and only through inheritance can it last forever. Zhang Zizai understood that people need to see the reality clearly. The current Kylin royal family is indeed not as glorious as it was in ancient times. When this group of people came in, Zhang Zizai just sighed at their strength and had no other thoughts. He noticed that there was a leader of this group of people, a young man of similar age to him, with black hair and black eyes, tall and thin body, with some dark lines on his face and neck, which looked like totem lines. Same, his appearance looks very strange. This is the tradition of the Black Clan. They like to paint totem patterns on their bodies. It is said that it can exert a certain effect. This was the most terrifying young man among them. His eyes were particularly cold. Only when he faced the middle-aged man before, did he smile and say, "Priest, this is the golden tripod of our clan. I got it from our clan meeting. The third level, now there is the 8th level of martial life realm." The young man pointed to a smaller boy and said, the boy named Jinding was obviously coming to the temple of sacrifice for the first time and was a little nervous. You could see that his eyes were slightly golden. Ranked 3rd in the clan association, he has reached the level of worshipping the temple, which is already higher than Zhang Zhengzi's last year. It turns out that this middle-aged man is also a priest. These young people, except for the newly arrived Jinding, should all be his disciples. I have met the Anran priest, this is my token. The young man named Jinding took out a token from his arms and placed it on the table. Zhang Zizai was about to leave, but at this moment, he suddenly saw that the token seemed to be black. The third member of the Black World clan should not be the white token. There is nothing wrong with the black token, but at this time, the young people were laughing. The leading young man said, "Priest, I will take Jinding around to get familiar with it. He has just come to the temple to worship, but we have the brothers and sisters of the Black family are here and will take good care of him." Judging from their intentions, it seems that they want to go directly to the sacrificial temple. For Zhang Zizai, this priest named Anran was doing official business, so there was no problem. He obeyed the rules. However, before they left, his own disciples came with their tribesmen and took out the same black token. It was obvious that these young people were going to take the golden tripod directly in, and the Anran priest did not seem to object. He probably did not notice that Zhang Zizai was just standing at the door before they left. Zhang Zizai watched as they went inside after the Anran priest nodded. "Wait!" Zhang Zizai shouted, turned back, and returned to the Anran priest. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 69. You haven't left yet. The priest Anran was smiling, but when he heard Zhang Zizai's voice, his eyes gradually turned cold. "You called us." The young man headed by the Black Clan suddenly turned his head. Maybe because of the totem, his eyes were a little strange, a bit like the eyes of an insect, and he was naturally indifferent. Zhang Zizai nodded, and he said to the priest Anran, "Senior, didn't you just tell me that no matter who comes, you must follow the rules? If you have a black token, you must take a 1-month entrance examination to become a disciple of the Sacrifice Temple. Why do the rules seem to have changed now? He obeyed the other party's official business, but seeing that the other party was only official to him and opened a small door for people he knew, with his personality, of course he was dissatisfied. What? Brother Wan Sha, didn't you say that I don't need to take the entrance examination? The young man named Jin Ding, although talented, was indeed a little stunned. At this time, he actually muttered to the young man in charge. Shut up, the young man of the black clan named Wan Sha cursed. Jin Ding's words further exposed Enran's hypocrisy. This made Enran glare at him. However, despite being questioned by Zhang Zizai, the priest Enran didn't seem to take it seriously. He said, I'm doing things, it's not your turn to manage. I asked you to come back in a month, you should be obedient, otherwise your qualifications will be cancelled. I don't see how you can enter the sacrifice temple. Tisk, the black family boy named Wansha, finally understood what was going on. He sneered and said to the people around him, so you are a fool, let's go in. You can't leave. Zhang Zizai's abrupt voice sounded here. That's right, why do we have to participate in the assessment? He doesn't need to because he has a black card. Just now he said seriously that he was doing his job impartially, but in the blink of an eye he gave his disciple a backdoor. How can the priest of the sacrifice temple be like this? Ruo Xiaoyu pouted and complained. Bold, Enran shouted angrily. A little girl dared to talk to him like this. His narrow eyes looked coldly at Ruo Xiaoyu. Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing immediately stood in front of her. My sister is telling the truth. Before I came here, I was full of yearning for the sacrifice temple. This is a place that all living beings yearn for. I thought it was the most fair and strict here. I didn't expect that on the first day, the seniors let us see the style of the priests of the sacrifice temple. Haha, interesting. Bang. Enran stood up, his face was ashen, and he smashed the table with one palm. Zhang Zizai, do you think this is your great Zhongqing city? How dare you talk to me like this? Enran was furious. Zhang Zizai, the young man of the black clan, seemed to have some impression of this name. Priest, let us help you drive away these villains. Wan Sha was very smart. He knew that in such a situation, it was not appropriate for the elders to take action, otherwise they would be known as bullying the weak. They came to replace them, turning the conflict into a fierce fight among young people, which was normal. After all, young people, where is there no fighting? Wan Sha, and a group of young people from the Black World clan, including the newly arrived Jin Ding, all had cold faces and pressed towards Zhang Zizai. Enran was very satisfied, waved his hand, and said, don't you see what your current status is? You still come to the sacrifice temple to make trouble. Throw them out. Yes, priest. There were 5 of them in total, at least 3 of them were in the Xuanmei realm, and Wan Sha was obviously not just the first level of the Xuanmei realm. The 5 people, without leaving any behind, all surrounded Zhang Zizai and the other 2, with fierce eyes. It seems that they still want to besiege when they have the upper hand in strength. This is indeed the style of the Black World clan, fighting in groups. The leader, Wan Sha, stared at Zhang Zizai with a pair of cold eyes and said, I remember who he is. It is said that he defeated Zhang Zhengzi of the Holy Dragon Palace and left him to me. Half a year in the 8th level, Zhang Zizai's affairs a few days ago did cause some turmoil, and many people heard about it. However, a young man whose family has fallen into poverty, his former identity is gone, so now there are really few people who are afraid of him, let alone respect him. Now only the identity of Princess Shenxiao can make these top geniuses of the black family in awe. Zhang Zizai can feel the cold oppression from this guy, which is a more gloomy feeling than the iron-toothed Ant Queen. There is a strong provocation in the other party's eyes. I wonder who it is. It turns out to be the son of the sinner of 100,000 wronged souls. Wan Sha smiled. The other party is only about 15 years old, and he is indeed stronger than Zhang Zhengzi to reach such a level. However, Zhang Zizai didn't take him seriously and said, "Don't rack your brains to provoke me with words. I don't accept the words of a nobody. I am a nobody." Wan Sha laughed and looked at the people next to him. Zhang Zizai wanted to make a scene, and his voice was very loud. He said, "Go away. Today's matter has nothing to do with you. I mainly want to ask this priest and Ran why his disciples can lead people without taking the assessment, but I do." They were arguing inside, which attracted a lot of people. Zhang Zizai was making a lot of noise now, and it was estimated that many people outside heard it. "Shut up. Take them down and throw them out," and Ran was completely enraged. Zhang Zizai still laughed and said, "It's useless to take me down. You can't control my mouth. I will tell everyone what you said and did today and let everyone comment. You are a competent priest of the temple." This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Don't think I'm easy to bully, I can make you sleepless and sleepless. Zhang Zizai stared at him without fear at all. And Ran, I really didn't expect that he would be so difficult to deal with. In his opinion, a young man from a poor family who came here alone should be able to be bullied by anyone. "Shut up." Seeing this, Wan Sha could only take action quickly. He directly greeted his friends. Pop. Suddenly someone clapped, and then there was a moving voice. "That's well said. It's true that I opened the small door specifically to bring people into the temple." The voice was so haunting that she finally appeared. Zhang Zizai saw her graceful voice coming out of the depths of the shadow. When she appeared, both Wan Sha, them, and Ran couldn't help but hold their breath. Sure enough, she is still so beautiful. Every time I see her, I forget all the women. Juxian glanced at Zhang Zizai, blinked, and then looked at the middle-aged man in black slightly angrily, and said, "Ran, I didn't expect that you wouldn't give me face like this. I brought him all the way from Daejiang King City. The little genius who came back, you stopped me at the door. I can't figure it out." Zhang Zizai continued, "I can't figure it out either. He said that he was doing business, and the black card had to be assessed, but this one had a black card, and he just accepted it. I thought this inexplicable way was to sacrifice to the temple." Features. The 9 immortals chuckled and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Others in the sacrifice temple are not so stupid." And Ran's face turned dark, and he quickly whispered to the 9 immortals, "I don't know, you really want to recruit him, 9 immortals, you should know about King Zilan, recruiting him now, but the royal family is against him. Do you have the ability and courage?" He only told the 9 immortals. "Ah, the frog at the bottom of the well." The 9 immortals showed contempt in their eyes. "You." The 9 immortals said, "When will we be afraid of the Yanlong royal family when we worship in the temple?" And Ran, "You are afraid." And Ran gritted his teeth and pondered for a while, then said, "Forget it, I'm too lazy to care about you, but obviously this is your own arrangement. His identity is so sensitive, I want to see if you can get past the relationship between Shenyu and Qing and godly attendant. They are in this level. I don't need you to worry about it anymore." Zhu Xian curled his lips, then waved his hand to Zhang Zizai and said, "Long time no see, I miss you so much. Come to sister, I can't wait any longer." The soft tone when she spoke, the words that made people think of Fi Fei, and the charming look were all like poison. This shocked Wan Sha, and Ran and the others, as well as the people outside who were watching with their heads raised, as to why the 9 immortals seemed to be so close to Zhang Zizai. She couldn't wait any longer. What on earth was she going to do? The 9 immortals are so hot, they can't help but think about it. However, anyone who knows her well knows that talking nonsense in front of her will lead to quite tragic consequences. Everyone, see you next time. Zhang Zizai was now extremely proud and arrogant, so angry that Ran didn't even want to look at him. And you, a nobody. Zhang Zizai glanced at Wan Sha from the Black World clan again. Brother Wan Sha is the eldest son of our clan and the future king of the Black World clan, the young man Jin Ding said indignantly. Oh, awesome, haha. Zhang Zizai rolled his eyes and followed the windy 9 immortals walking deeper. Although there were some twists and turns, I finally entered the sacrifice temple smoothly. No need to wait a month in vain. After they left, Priest and Ran and Wan Sha took them, their faces ashen. I didn't expect that the son of a sinner would be so arrogant when his whole family was about to be destroyed. They were indignant. Priest, I will find an opportunity to teach him a lesson. I will definitely be cruel and make him regret it. Wan Sha's eyes were cold, still looking in Zhang Zizai's direction. And Ran waved his hand and said with a smile, when will we retaliate? It's all trivial, don't worry about it. But, on the day when Zhang Junjian is asked to be executed, I will organize the worshippers to come and cheer, and we will sing and dance for a while. It's time to celebrate. The cancer of the dynasty should have been eliminated long ago, Wan Sha said. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 70. After passing through the entrance hall, you have officially entered the scope of the sacrificial temple. The first thing that catches the eye is the huge divine pillar of origin. The pillar of origin rises from the ground, like a giant pillar, reaching into the sky. Today, the top is not visible because of the dense white clouds. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Judging from its thickness, it is probably more than twice the size of the great Zhonghuang city's origin pillar. Zhang Zizai has grown up next to the divine pillar of origin in Dajiang City since he was a child, and is particularly familiar with this divine pillar of origin. Every time I see it, there is always a special emotion. The origin pillar of the sacrifice temple also gave him the same feeling. This gave him a certain sense of belonging here the first moment he came to the temple of sacrifice. As for the priest and Ran and his priests, it did not affect Zhang Zizai's good impression of this place. After all, he knew that the temple of sacrifice was also a river and lake, and the forest was big and there were all kinds of birds. You came quite quickly. Why do you miss me so much? The 9 immortals looked back with a smile, which made Ruo Xiaoyu's eyes widen. Zhang Zizai chuckled and said, I can't eat or sleep without you. Then you need to eat more and sleep more now. No, I can't bear to sleep now. How could he let her tease him every time? Of course Zhang Zizai was always ready to take advantage of her. Hey, my little mouth is so skinny. Zhu Xian chuckled and seemed to be in a very good mood. Surrounding the pillar of origin is the square for worshipping the temple. It is very wide and is called the square for worshipping gods. Around the god sacrifice square and around the origin pillar, there are many simple and majestic buildings. Zhang Zizai could feel the solemn atmosphere and the smell of incense from far away. These are the pantheon. Each hall inside has a statue of a god. From now on, you will not be able to break into any pantheon at will. Only on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month, you will follow the priest to worship the ancient gods. When seeing those pantheons, this was an important matter, and the 9 immortals warned them. The 3 people nodded quickly. They knew something about the pantheon. It is said that the statues in it existed in extremely ancient times and had endless history. According to folklore, it was even said that the statues were clones of ancient gods and had appeared to kill them. Overcome evil and protect all people. The existence of the temple of sacrifice is to lead all people to worship the ancient gods and express gratitude to the ancient gods for their gifts. There are many ancient gods in it, such as the dragon god, Kailan god, sword god, pen god, etc. That dragon god statue, even the Yanlong royal family would come in to worship during important festivals. Among them, the Kailan god, Zhang Yunting, had also come here with his tribe before, but Zhang Zizai didn't come. His brothers and sisters had come several times. The 9 major clans also have the tradition of worshipping ancient gods. Of course, they also worship their rock gods, insect gods, etc. This is also the reason why the temple of worship has a transcendent status in its long history. If it weren't for the fact that the temple of sacrifice began to accept disciples, this place would be a holy land outside the world. They worship ancient gods and have divine power. Sometimes they worship the temple and speak, which is more useful to the people of the world than the Yanlong Emperor. Therefore, throughout the ages, sacrificial temples have also had important rules for supervising governance. Zhang Zizhe took a few glances at the pantheon. He couldn't see the statues outside, but he could feel the majesty and solemn aura. From now on the 1st and 15th day of every month, you must bathe and change clothes, and religiously burn incense. This is an important rule for worshipping the disciples of the temple. Although the temple of sacrifice accepts disciples, just like other schools in Yanlong ruins, its fundamental nature will not change, which is to worship the gods. This is the reason why it stands above other schools in Yanlong ruins. Zhu Xian introduced them to them as they walked. She was afraid that she was very famous in the temple of sacrifice. When other disciples of the temple of sacrifice saw her, they would walk around and not dare to look directly at her appearance. After coming in, Zhang Zizhe discovered that the disciples here were not that exaggerated. The few people who were killed just now should be the elites inside. Zhang Zizhe, Lu Dingxing, and Ruo Xiaoyu, since I am leading you into the sacrificial temple, from now on, I will be your priest. From now on, you must respect your master and follow the rules in front of others, do you understand? Zhu Xian suddenly turned around and said seriously. Zhang Zizhe, of course, wanted her to cover him, after all, he was familiar with her. On the contrary, if Xiaoyu whispered in Zhang Zizhe's ear, "Brother, wouldn't that be inconvenient?" "Don't talk nonsense," Zhang Zizhe knocked on her head. Of course, what she was thinking about in her little head was the relationship between Zhang Zizhe and Zhu Xian. Convenient, very convenient. Zhu Xian blinked, and Ruo Xiaoyu was so frightened that she quickly covered her mouth, not daring to say more. In fact, Zhang Zizhe understood that in her eyes, she was afraid that her group of people were children. Although she likes to tease herself, she definitely doesn't have that kind of relationship in mind. He has other important responsibilities now, and he wants to keep his admiration in his heart. Maybe he will have a chance to be with her in the future. Let's talk about it then. Moreover, the priests of the temple are different from ordinary masters. What they lead is more about sacrificial things rather than real mentors. If there is no problem, I will take you to see Shen Yuanqing now. When you get the God sacrifice token from him, you will become the official disciples of the sacrifice temple. Zhang Zizhe and the others nodded and followed the 9 immortals, passing through the pantheon and the God sacrifice square, towards the back half of the sacrifice temple. Yuanqing is a kind of guest in the temple of sacrifice. They belong to the temple of sacrifice, but they don't have any tasks. They go out a lot on weekdays. They are generally better than the priests, and their status is also above the priests. Xiao the old man is the Yuanqing of our temple. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. However, Shen Yuanqing is actually different from Yuanqing. There is only one Shen Yuanqing. She is mainly responsible for communicating with the 3 divine servants and supervising personnel. No, she is responsible for the establishment of disciples. As Zhu Xian walked, he introduced them to them, which was considered very attentive. Xiao Yushan was a Yuanqing. Yuanqing is relatively free, but if the temple of worship really needs it, they must also contribute. In the temple of sacrifice, the highest status ones are the 3 divine attendants, followed by Shen Yuanqing and Yuanqing, and then we are the priests. The priests usually have more than a dozen priests, and about 100 priests, but I have only been a priest for a short time and there are only about 50 priests. You three little geniuses have just come and expanded our family. The blurred eyes of the 9 immortals became more pleasing to the eye the more they looked at the three of them. Especially, when she knew that Ruo Xiaoyu was also a heaven-level totem, she first exclaimed, and then couldn't help but snicker. Girl, I am not only beautiful, but also very lucky. With you three little geniuses, the 9 immortals pavilion, will be superior to all the priests, haha. She put her hands on her hips and laughed regardless of her appearance. But a beauty is a beauty, and such a bold smile is so beautiful that Zhang Zizai can't help but fix his eyes on the plumpness of her chest. There must be competition among priests. Do you know why I went to the entrance hall to look for you in such a hurry? Zhang Zizai and the others shook their heads. Zhu Xian smiled and said, of course I'm afraid that some turtle grandson will steal my three precious priests, but it turns out that Guy and Ran is really a sophomore, haha. What is a second pussy? Lu Dingxing asked. Oh, it just means handsome. Juxian stopped laughing. She probably felt that she still had to maintain a beautiful and mysterious image in front of the three of them. I see, boss, I think you're pretty cool too, Lu Dingxing said seriously. Don't be like this. I just need to know it myself. Don't say it out loud. It's embarrassing. Zhang Zizai was in a happy mood after receiving the praise. However, depending on what 9 immortals meant, how could Erbai mean being handsome? He vaguely felt that he had been cheated. Because after listening to the conversation between him and Lu Dingxing, Zhu Xian couldn't help but bend over with laughter. Okay, I won't tease you. Remember to give me some face, sister, in the future. She gradually stopped smiling, as if remembering something, and warned, when you get to Xuanhuan, be serious. You can't say a word even if I don't let you speak. Zhang Zizai and the others naturally remembered her serious instructions. But, why does Xuanhuan have to be so cautious? From her tone, Zhang Zizai could infer that this Xuanhuan was definitely someone she couldn't control.